Fairy Days by William Makepeace Thackeray, 1811 to 1863. Beside the old hall fire, upon my nurse's knee, of happy fairy days what tales were told to me! I thought the world was once all peopled with princesses, and my heart would beat to hear their loves and their distresses. And many a quiet night in slumber sweet and deep, the pretty fairy people would visit me in sleep. I saw them in my dreams come flying east and west, with wondrous fairy gifts the newborn babe they blessed. One has brought a jewel, and one a crown of gold, and one has brought a curse, but she is wrinkled and old. The gentle queen turns pale to hear those words of sin, but the king he only laughs and bids the dance begin. The babe has grown to be the fairest of the land, and rides the forest green, a hawk upon her hand. An ambling palfrey white, a golden robe and crown, I've seen her in my dreams riding up and down, and heard the ogre laugh as she fell into his snare at the little tender creature who wept and tore her hair. But ever when it seemed her need was at the sorest, a prince in shining mail comes prancing through the forest, a waving ostrich plume, a buckler burnished bright. I've seen him in my dreams, good sooth, a gallant knight. His lips are coral red, beneath a dark moustache. See how he waves his hand, and how his blue eyes flash. Come forth, thou Paynim knight, he shouts in accents clear. The giant and the maid both tremble his voice to hear. St. Mary guard him well, he draws his falchion keen. The giant and the knight are fighting on the green. I see them in my dreams, his blade gives stroke on stroke. The giant pants and reels, and tumbles like an oak. With what a blushing grace he falls upon his knee, and takes the lady's hand, and whispers, "You are free." Ah, happy childish tales of knight and fairy! I waken from my dreams, but there's ne'er a night for me. I waken from my dreams, and wish that I could be a child by the old hall fire, upon my nurse's knee. Okay, this is a poem or a fairy tale by William Makepeace Thackeray. Let's see, Thackeray was born in Calcutta in India. His father worked, I think, for the East India Company, but I think when he was 5 his father died, and he was sent to England to live with relatives and to learn about England. I think he was sent to Charterhouse School, which he detested, and then he went to Trinity College, Cambridge, but he didn't finish his degree. He studied law for a short time, and then he went to art school in Paris. And meanwhile, he'd had a good inheritance from his father, but he was prone to gambling and had lost a lot of the money. And that's what I think probably pushed him to start writing. He's most famous for his book Vanity Fair, which shows different characters of the times that he lived in. And there's really no hero in this book. People are a mixture of good and bad, and that's really, I think, the truth, and he's known as a realist or realist author. So, fairy days, what's this about? Well, it's like a fairy tale, or it's telling of childhood fantasies, and the fantasies from the fairy tales that he listened to when he was young. And this poem, it's showing a world of innocence, and it's also, if when we get to the end, we understand that it's nostalgia, because he's looking back. I think he's dreaming of the dreams that he used to have when he was a kid, and the poem is full of fantasies, and it's got an interesting rhyming scheme to it as well. And he's at the end, he says he would really love to return to that simpler time. It's nostalgia for the past, but he can't go back. So, beside the old hall fire upon my nurse's knee, of happy fairy days, what tales were told to me. So he's remembering when he was a kid and he used to sit on the knee of his nurse or his nanny, and she would tell all sorts of fairy stories to him. I thought the world was once all peopled with princesses. So he thought that there were princesses everywhere, all over the world, but, well, later when you grow up you discover this is not actually true. And my heart would beat to hear their loves and their distresses, and for him the most interesting thing in the world were the adventures, what happened to these princesses. And many a quiet night, in slumber sweet and deep, the pretty fairy people would visit me in sleep. So very often when he was asleep, this fairy world would come to him in his dreams. I saw them in my dreams, come flying east and west. So he could see them in his dreams, and they're coming from everywhere. With wondrous fairy gifts, the newborn babe they blessed. So his dream begins, there's a newborn baby, and the fairies are coming with different gifts. And this is like the beginning of the one where the princess pricks her finger and falls asleep for 100 years. One fairy has brought a jewel, one fairy has brought a crown, and one has brought a curse, but she's wrinkled and old. So, and one of the fairies brings a jewel, one a gold crown, and another one a curse, but she's ugly and old. And the queen, the gentle queen turns pale to hear those words of sin. So the queen goes white because she hears these terrible words of the curse. But the king, he only laughs. He says, let the dance begin. He bids the dance begin. The king doesn't listen to them. The babe has grown to be the fairest of the land. This is now mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? And rides the forest green, a hawk upon her hand. So the baby is now a woman. She's grown up, and she's riding in the forest, and she has a hawk, a bird of prey, on her arm. An ambling palfrey white. A palfrey is a small horse. It's not a great big war horse, it's a small horse. A golden robe and crown. So she's wearing a golden dress and a crown, so she's the princess. I've seen her in my dreams riding up and down, and heard the ogre laugh as she fell into his snare, at the little tender creature who wept and tore her hair. So suddenly there's an ogre, and the ogre falls into his trap. The princess falls into his trap, and he's laughing at her because she's pulling her hair out. She's so unhappy, this beautiful little princess. But ever when it seemed her need was at the sorest, a prince in shining mail comes prancing through the forest. So when it seems that everything is lost, at this point the prince in shining armour comes walking through the forest. A waving ostrich plume, he has the feather of an ostrich on his head, and a buckler, a shield, bright and burnished bright. It's bright and shining. It's polished. I've seen him in my dreams. Good sooth, a gallant knight. So good truth, good omens, a gallant knight. Good things, a gallant knight has come. He's a brave knight. His lips are coral red. So he's got red lips beneath a dark moustache. So his moustache is dark, not grey. And how he waves his hand, and how his blue eyes flash. So the handsome knight has appeared. Come forth, thou Paynim knight, he shouts in accents clear. So Paynim, this is a word which means pagan, infidel, not a Christian knight. Come forth, you pagan knight, he shouts in accents clear. So he's calling the ogre, yeah? You pagan, come here, you pagan knight. The giant and the maid both tremble his voice to hear. So both the giant, I imagine the giant's got the princess in his hand, and they're both shaking to hear the voice of the prince. St. Mary, guard him well. So please, St. Mary, look after him. He draws his falchion clean. This is a type of sword. The giant and the knight are fighting on the green. So they start fighting. They're fighting on the common land. I see them in my dreams. His blade gives stroke on stroke. So I can see them in my dreams, and the knight is hitting the ogre again and again with his sword. The giant pants and reels, goes round and round, and tumbles and falls like an oak tree. With what blushing grace he falls upon his knee, and takes the lady's hand and whispers, "You are free." And suddenly, with a very graceful movement, the ogre, he falls upon his knee, he's dying, and he takes the lady's hand and he says, "You are free, you can go." Ah, happy childish tales, so wonderful tales of knight and fairy. So these wonderful stories of childhood, and this nostalgic feeling for childhood. I waken from my dreams, but there's ne'er a night for me. So I awake, but there's never a night there. I waken from my dreams and wish that I could be a child by the old hall fire upon my nurse's knee. And he wakes up from this dream, and now it's clear that he's an adult, and he wishes to return to a simpler time, to when he was a child, when life was much easier, and the world was a land of fairy tales. But unfortunately, the real world is not a land of fairy tales. So, Fairy Days by William Makepeace Thackeray.